Hi, it's Vanessa Love. All right, so I'm recording yet another video. I was watching a lot of the videos that I've have on my to watch list, and one of them mentioned um, education. And I mean, I definitely think that education needs to be reformed. We are asking a lot of kids these days. Uh, and from to my knowledge, like we're asking a lot more than we had in the past. Like I remember getting like a workbook when I was in second grade, and they were like, "You have to work on this workbook," and I didn't. I didn't like the workbook. Always forgot it, um, and just didn't think. I didn't think that there was anything in there that was like that interesting, so I didn't do it. Um, and I know in my relationship, my fiance, he doesn't. When something doesn't interest him, he has no motivation whatsoever to want to do anything like with it. Um, and so and I've watched, as you know, Dr. Daniel Mackler, uh, his uh, his videos about how he doesn't like he didn't like how his PhD program. I also watch ContraPoints, and he talks. They talk about how they dropped out of school because just the rigmarole of everything that was going on with um, with researching and that sort of thing. So this is like, we're asking a lot of kids, but maybe we're asking too much of adults too. And even the topic of, and I'll get to all of these too, the topic of therapy and therapists, and they have to kind of be vetted at school. Um, that that has to be something too. So for kids, we are asking a lot. We're asking them to sit. We're asking them not to be interactive. And, like when I have clients who are very young and they tell me what a wonderful time they had at, what is that called? At like field day, where they're like, talking about, getting it's like the thing at the it's a day that's kind of loose at the end of the school year where like they play a bunch of games. And like I know that one of my clients, like they had their class line up and they had a bucket full of water with holes in it, and like they all got wet, and like it was really really super fun. um, and I don't see why that can't be like an actual school thing, to like teach kids how to cooperate, and like for a common goal, or to have that like real interaction with people, and with um, like like hands-on stuff. I know that if I view something and I've seen it repeatedly, then I get interested and then I can jump in, which I really hated that I couldn't do as like a post grad. Because after you graduate, you're not just like given a license. You have to do in the state of Connecticut 3,000 hours with 100 hours of supervision in order for you. I think 300. I mean, is it? No. It. I always got this confused. 300. It's 300, isn't it? I don't remember. Um, it was the equivalent of like every 30 hours you should have a supervision. Um, so, uh, so like you have to have these hours to get to a point where they'll accept your application for your licensure. And what I really would have loved is just to sit down and watch multiple sessions, because I think that would have, maybe talked with my supervisor about that, because like I think that would have been just totally great for me to be like, okay, this person said this thing and you responded this way, and then be like, I responded that way because blah 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 blah, and for me, I also liked, I grew up in the Bay Area of California, and there's this really super awesome place, love this place called the Exploratorium. And the Exploratorium teaches science, but it teaches science in an interactive way. And so all of the stuff that I've ever learned that has like retained stuff, for me, is, through the Exploratorium. Like, I can tell you so many different things where I'm like, oh, and then we did this, and then we did this, and then this happened, and this is what this demonstrated, and this is how this worked, and that's me going there as an adult. So, like, I don't know why we can't have, more interactive schools, and why that can't be a part of the curriculum while we're still, like, teaching kids how to do things that we find that are going to be important for them. At the same time, like, being in school and being in, like, high school and not learning how to do taxes or anything about financial planning was ridiculous. I was basically given all of, I think the juniors were like huddled into the cafeteria, and we had to take these tests, and at the end, like, they were tests to see what your career you're gonna have. And like, do you like the smell of cookies, that type of thing? Do you think that you would want to be around a bunch of people? Do you think that you wouldn't be? And then, like, at the end, you have to, like, you score it yourself, and then you find a list of, like, what fits with that score, and you tell them basically what you want to do. And mine was art therapist. They did have it at the time, so I definitely put that down. I probably put actress down, and probably, like, author, journalist, or something. And that's all kind of the career planning that they ever did. I know that I had they called it a school counselor. Like, I think I saw him maybe a couple of times, and usually because I was in trouble, and not, like, because I wasn't doing well in my classes, except for the one, and I had, like, he was basically like, suck it up. But it was, I didn't interact with him very much. I did write something for the paper one time, or for the city paper, the local paper one time, and I got in trouble for that, and they told me a lot of things, and then I was like, Mom, they told me these things. And so my mom called, and they were like, oh, no, we didn't say any of those things. And I was like, wow, Mom, they really backtracked on that shit. Like, what the fuck? And my brother got in trouble the same week for playing something on his, like, high school radio station that wasn't allowed. And so I'm sure my mom had her hands full that week with media and her kids. And, like, I always tell the story about how I absolutely do not think that homework should be a thing. Because homework, from my perspective, was a fucking waste of time. I don't do homework as an adult. I've never done homework for any work that, like, any job that I've had. There's never been a time of, hey, you know what you need to do? Well, you need to research this. No. If I'm going to be training about something, if I'm going to be researching something, it's going to have to be on your dime. Because I'm not bettering myself as a worker in order to, like, get you more money, basically. Any company. I'm thinking of the time I worked for CBS. And, like, like, that's not what they ever asked me to do. Okay? So that is a complete and utter fucking bullshit thing to do. And people are, some of the proponents are like, oh, well, people need to, have, like, they need to have it. It's good for them. It's good for kids, apparently. And, like, it requires time management. No, it fucking doesn't. No, it doesn't. Why don't you let me figure out, especially in this digital age, what I want to study after school. or if I want to be social, or if I want to have friends, or if I want to go for, the swim team, the track team, whichever team that I feel like going for. I don't feel like I had enough time to do homework and be a part of a sport. If that was something that I was so inclined to do, which it wasn't. Um, but like that, I mean, I feel sad sometimes for the kids who come in and see me, because I'm like basically taking up their time between hours of homework and food and sleep. That's it. Like that's all that they're really allowed to do. And on top of that, I had a class, and it was pre-calculus. I was probably a senior in high school at that point. I did not do well with that material at all. Like that's like I'm never going to go farther than that, because it's not something that I want to do. Um, and I just, for me, spending all of that time on a subject that was just going to be difficult for me and has nothing to do with my life at this moment was ridiculous. If I spent as many hours as I spent on that class doing something like practicing clarinet, or learning how to write better, or spending time with my friends, I feel like I could have spent that time a lot better, and practicing something that really would have affected me as I am today. The friendships that I made and that I've kept, from high school, are the ones that are, these are the people who know me really well. These are the people who, like, when I have tough times, they're the ones that are there, you know? So, like, not to, like, have to disengage from them and be like, oh, homework. It's not fair. It's not fair for any student. And from my perspective, you have just spent, like, so many hours sitting down focused. This is why I have neck problems, actually, because I always focused like this, which is not good for the neck. So you have to, like, properly book up and all that stuff. Things you're supposed to do so that you don't get stress on your neck, which is never something that I learned very well to do. So, what do we call it? Like, I I could have used that time better. Like, it was a stress on my body to do those things. And like, to ask anyone to sit still for that long of amount of time is unrealistic, you know? As well as, like, get up that early when you're a teenager. Like, if, this has been studied repeatedly. If you are able to go at a later time, you are actually awake and able to do better. I know, though, that one of my friends, she had a very troubled family life, and she doesn't remember things. And so, like, we were playing Cards Against Humanity, and there was a card about 40 acres and a donkey, and I was like, that's really funny because it's this thing. And she had no idea what I was talking about, because that, like, her life at that, like, when she was younger, was about survival. It wasn't about it, this history stuff that she's like, I don't understand what that even affects my life for now, like, but, a very common, point of information that many people have. That's probably why it was on the card. She doesn't have that, and my friends were kind of making fun of her, saying that she was sheltered, and I'm like, ooh, that's not the thing. That she wasn't sheltered. She couldn't focus on school if she was going through other things. And I know one of my other friends, he was kicked out of school. Not kicked out of school, he was kicked out of his house by his parents, at a very young age, and he had to survive on his own. And to go to school and finish school, and also have to work because he was kicked out of his house, was not. I mean, he's not gonna. You either choose one or the other at that point. Like, you can't. all like have to go to work and pay the bills and do all of the homework and be involved in school. Like, it's not going to happen. And that's, those are the things that students go through that it doesn't seem like the current like school, stuff, or at least the school that I mean, at least schools when I was younger, had like that wasn't like encouraged. You have to go to school, you have to go to school, you have to go to school. And when I think about how, is I mean, this information might be out of date, you can always correct me, but that the dropout rates for blacks and Latinos is very, very high. Well, maybe we're doing something that's not helping them to succeed. Maybe something's going on. Instead of just being like, well, I mean, that's their culture or something, like, that explains anything, like, maybe there's something wrong with the way that we're perceiving that. And, like, then there's all the statistics about, well, the farther up you go in college, like, the more that you'll make and all of this stuff. So if someone doesn't get their GED, then they must be, suffering, and they're never gonna make more than blah blah blah. Like, something's wrong with this system. Something is definitely wrong with this system, and it is very, very unfortunate. Therapy and therapists. Well, I think that it's very difficult to say who's going to succeed as a therapist and who won't. There might be some people out there who would be lovely therapists, but don't have the money to go, or don't have like the know-how to go, or don't test well. There are some people who are very, very sweet people who should not be in the therapy field because they are damaged, which is tough to talk about, because I'm like, some of these people are people I know, but I know that they haven't healed from whatever things that they've experienced, and they aren't going to be a good therapist until they do. Like, having a better system so that people who are really great at test taking and really, and the tests don't have anything to do with therapy. They just, can you take it and pass? Cool, you're a therapist. I mean, I don't do group therapy. I have done group therapy, so I was tested on that. And whatchamacallit, like, I was tested on that, and I did very well on that section, but that has nothing to do with this. Nothing at all. I'm never in a family session going, what theory am I currently using? Is this is the person who created this group dynamic theory about blah 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 blah, what would they say about this situation? No, it's like, okay, I think I can get this. All right, yep, all right. Make sure that the control's maintained in the room. Are you guys figuring this out? No? Okay, let me step in. And like, it doesn't, the test that I took has nothing to do with what I actually do. And I hated that. I mean, obviously I tested well then. This other test that I have to take is, I don't even know. I can't even talk about it, because I'm just like, it's fucking weird. I've never seen a test so badly done before that I'm just like, I'm not going to be able to, I'm like, no, I'll be able to pass it, but, I'm probably going to have to spend a lot more fucking money than I want to, because I have to take this test that is, and learn how to take this particular test. Does it have any bearing on how I am as a therapist or what I do? No, it doesn't. I mean, it's just, I have to do it. Not very fun, by the way. But yeah, we do have to come up with a better way to really, really vet therapists in order to make sure that we have the most competent therapists and we have the most ethical, therapists. And right now, like even like Dr. Mackler has, pointed out, like, it's almost lawless. There are still therapists who are losing their licenses because they're, sexually abusing or in other words, raping their clients. With that much authority disparity, that is what that's called. You know, like especially like authority. Oh my god, it's bad. It's bad. Um, and it's it's unfortunate that there are people out there who feel that that's reasonable and ethical for them to do. Or maybe they don't think that it's ethical. Maybe like something happens, and that's what they do. And I think it's sad, and there are a lot of people, unfortunately, in the field who are very, very reactive. And I would just love to have a supportive community where, we can talk about those things, and instead of having people, you know, have to struggle with that by themselves. Like, what if a therapist did have, like, a crush on their client? Where are they going to go to talk about that? But I mean, that's beside the point. The point being that we need to have better ways to vet therapists, to make sure that we have the most competent, the most ethical, therapists out there, because it's not great. It's not great to hear, like, one of my clients say, I've been to plenty of therapists and you're the only one who's helped me. You know? Like that, like, you should have been helped by the first therapist. You know? Anyway, I hope that was helpful, and I will, talk soon. All right, thanks so much. Bye.